Dr. Sarah Chen walked into the giant meeting room with her heart beating fast. The ceiling was so high she could barely see the top. Strange lights floated in the air, giving everything a blue glow. She had dreamed of this day for years, but now that it was here, she felt very small. Around the huge circular table sat 12 different alien beings. Sarah had studied pictures of them for months, but seeing them in person was still shocking. The committee chair was a tall crystal creature named Zixtal. Light moved through their body like lightning in a bottle. Next to them sat Clicked, who looked like a giant mantis but wore a fancy uniform covered in medals. On the other side of the table was Dr. Seth, a lizard-like being with 4 arms and green scales that sparkled under the lights. They were the chief biologist for the Galactic Council. Their large yellow eyes watched Sarah carefully as she took her seat. Sarah smoothed her blue diplomatic suit and opened her briefcase. Inside were hundreds of papers about Earth and humanity. Trade agreements, population reports, technology summaries, and military strength documents. She had worked on these papers for 2 years. "Welcome, Ambassador Chen," Zixtal said. Their voice sounded like wind chimes in a storm. "Today we will decide if your species is ready to join the Galactic Council." Sarah smiled and nodded. "Thank you for this opportunity. Humanity is excited to become part of the galactic community." The first few hours went well. The aliens asked about human technology. Sarah showed them videos of spaceships, computers, and medical equipment. They seemed impressed when she explained how humans had built cities underwater and in space. Clicked their mandibles together, which Sarah had learned meant they were happy. "Your species adapts well to different environments. This is good." Dr. Seth leaned forward with all 4 arms on the table. "Your military strength is adequate. Your trade goods are interesting. But now we must discuss the most important topic." Sarah sat up straighter. She had prepared for questions about human aggression or territorial disputes. Those were the usual problems when new species joined the council. "We need to establish nursery protocols," Dr. Seth continued. "Every species must follow proper hatchling care standards." Sarah blinked. "I'm sorry, could you repeat that?" Zixtal's crystal body began to glow brighter. Holographic images appeared above the table. Sarah saw what looked like gardens filled with enormous eggs. Some were as big as houses. Others were tiny and glowed with inner light. Alien beings carefully tended to the eggs, checking temperatures and humidity levels. "These are standard nursery facilities," explained Dr. Seth. "Each species has different requirements for proper egg development. We must know your specifications to prepare appropriate facilities on council worlds." Sarah stared at the images. Slowly, understanding crept into her mind. All around the table, 12 different alien species were looking at her expectantly. They all assumed that human babies came from eggs. "What temperature do human eggs require?" asked a blob-like creature whose name Sarah couldn't pronounce. "How long is your incubation period?" inquired another alien who looked like a walking tree. "Do you prefer sand nests or platform incubators?" Dr. Seth added. Sarah opened her mouth and closed it. She looked around the room at all the alien faces staring at her. Some had multiple eyes. Others had no visible eyes at all. But they were all waiting for her answer about human egg care. "I think there might be a misunderstanding," Sarah said carefully. "Human babies don't come from eggs." The room became completely silent. Not just quiet, but absolutely silent. Even the floating light seemed to dim. Sarah could hear her own heartbeat in the sudden stillness. Zixtal's crystal body stopped glowing. A small crack appeared near what might have been their head. "Excuse me?" "Humans don't lay eggs," Sarah repeated, speaking slowly and clearly. "Our babies develop inside the mother's body and are born alive." The silence stretched longer. Sarah watched as 12 different alien species processed this information. Click's head tilted so far to one side it almost touched their shoulder. Dr. Seth's yellow eyes grew even larger. The tree-like being's branches began to shake. "That's impossible," whispered the blob creature. "All intelligent life reproduces through eggs," Dr. Seth said, their voice getting higher. "It is the universal constant, the fundamental requirement for complex evolution." Sarah reached into her briefcase and pulled out a thick biology textbook. She had brought it just in case there were questions about human anatomy. Now she was very glad she had it. "I can show you the scientific details," she offered. "Humans have what we call live birth. The baby grows inside the mother for 9 months, then—" "Stop!" Dr. Seth stood up suddenly, all 4 arms waving. "This is biological impossibility. No complex organism can survive such a process. The energy requirements alone would kill any intelligent being. Zixtal's crack grew larger. Another committee member, who looked like a giant seahorse, began making distressed whistling sounds. The floating lights in the room started blinking rapidly. Perhaps there's been a translation error, suggested clicked, though they sounded uncertain. Your universal translators might be malfunctioning. Sarah shook her head. No, the translation is correct. Would you like me to explain how human reproduction actually works? No, shouted half the committee at once. The seahorse alien fainted and fell backward off their chair. The blob creature began changing colors rapidly from blue to green to purple. Dr. Seth sat down heavily, staring at Sarah like she had just claimed that gravity flowed upward. This cannot be true, Zixtal said, but their voice was shaking. Every species in the galaxy, without exception, reproduces through eggs. The crystalline unity lays energy eggs in quantum fields. The hive minds deposit neural eggs in collective consciousness pools. Even the void dancers create probability eggs in dimensional pockets. But humans are different, Sarah said simply. Different how? Dr. Seth demanded. Show us proof. Where are your hidden egg chambers? What kind of shells do you use? How do you manage temperature control during development? Sarah sighed and opened her briefcase again. She pulled out her tablet computer and started searching through files. I have ultrasound images of pregnant women, videos of births, medical documentation of the entire process. The room erupted in chaos. Several aliens began talking at once in their native languages. The universal translators couldn't keep up, filling the air with confused beeping and static. The seahorse alien woke up, took one look at Sarah's tablet, and fainted again. Zixtal stood up, their crystal body now covered in cracks. This session is suspended pending emergency biological verification. We cannot proceed with integration protocols until this impossibility is resolved. Dr. Seth pointed one of their forearms at Sarah. You will remain here while we contact our best scientists. If you are lying to this council, there will be severe consequences. I'm not lying, Sarah said quietly. I'm just telling you the truth about how humans reproduce. As the aliens filed out of the room in a state of shock, Sarah sat alone at the enormous table. She looked at the holographic images still floating above them, showing peaceful egg nurseries from across the galaxy. She had expected many things to go wrong at this meeting. She had prepared for questions about human aggression, territorial disputes, or technological incompatibility. But she had never imagined that the simple biological fact of live birth would cause such chaos. Outside the meeting room, she could hear urgent conversations and the sound of emergency communications being sent across the galaxy. Sarah closed her briefcase and waited. Somehow she had a feeling this was going to take a while to sort out. 3 hours later, the meeting room doors burst open. Dr. Seth stormed in, followed by 6 other alien scientists. Their scales were darker than before, and all 4 of their arms were shaking. Behind them came Zixtal, whose crystal body now had so many cracks it looked ready to shatter. Sarah had spent the time reading her biology textbook, preparing for what she knew would be difficult questions. She looked up as the aliens took their seats around the massive table. We have consulted with the greatest minds in the galaxy, Dr. Seth announced. Every single expert agrees. What you describe is biologically impossible. A new alien scientist who looked like a walking mushroom with dozens of small eyes leaned forward. I am Dr. Sporemind, specialist in evolutionary biology. I have studied life development for 300 years. Live birth cannot work for intelligent species. Why not? Sarah asked simply. Dr. Sporemind's eyes all blinked at different times, creating a strange rippling effect. The energy cost is too high. Growing a complex brain inside another organism would kill the mother. The infant would not survive without proper shell protection. Temperature control would be impossible. Nutrition delivery would fail. The whole system would collapse. Sarah opened her tablet and showed them an ultrasound image of a human baby in the womb. This is a human infant at 6 months of development. The mother is healthy and active. The walking mushroom took one look at the screen and made a sound like air escaping from a balloon. Several of their eyes closed in what looked like disgust. Dr. Seth waved all 4 arms dismissively. Computer graphics. Clever fiction. Your species has created elaborate false evidence to hide your real reproduction methods. Why would we lie about this? Sarah asked. Every species lies about something during integration, said a new voice. Sarah turned to see an alien who looked like a collection of floating metal rings. I am Judge Orbital 7. In my 1,000 years of council service, I have seen species lie about their military strength, their population size, their technological level. But this is the most creative lie yet. Sarah felt frustration building in her chest. It's not a lie. Would you like me to explain the biological process step by step? Please no, whispered Clicked, who had been quiet until now. The concept is already disturbing enough. Dr. Seth pulled out their own electronic device and projected a hologram into the air. It showed a detailed diagram of what looked like an ideal alien reproductive system. This is how intelligent life works, they said firmly. Genetic material combines in a protective shell. The shell provides nutrients, maintains temperature, and shields the developing mind from external stress. After proper incubation, the new being emerges fully capable of survival. Sarah studied the diagram. It was actually quite elegant, she had to admit. That's a very efficient system. But it's not how humans work. Then humans cannot be truly intelligent, Dr. Sporemind declared. Intelligence requires complex brain development. Complex brain development requires protected incubation. Protected incubation requires eggs. This is universal law. Except for humans, Sarah said patiently. Zixtal's crystal body flashed with bright light. You keep saying that. But it makes no sense. How does the developing brain get proper nutrients without a specialized shell-feeding system? Sarah pulled up another image on her tablet. Through the umbilical cord. The mother's body provides everything the baby needs directly through her bloodstream. The room fell silent again. This time the silence felt different. Less shocked, more horrified. Judge Orbital 7's metal rings began spinning slowly. You mean the mother organism shares her own life energy with the developing offspring? Yes, Sarah nodded. For 9 months, Dr. Sporemind made that deflating sound again, but louder. The mother could die from such energy drain. Sometimes there are complications, Sarah admitted. But usually both mother and baby are fine. Human females are very strong. This is parasitism, Dr. Seth exclaimed, jumping up from their chair. The offspring is literally feeding off the parent. This is not reproduction, this is biological horror. Sarah frowned. It's not parasitism. It's a natural partnership. The mother's body is designed for this process. Designed by who? Demanded Dr. Sporemind. What mad creator would design such a terrible system? By evolution, Sarah said simply. The same force that shaped all of your species. Clicked their mandibles nervously. But evolution is logical. It creates efficient solutions. What you describe sounds like the opposite of efficiency. Sarah thought about how to explain this better. Live birth has advantages. The baby can grow larger because it's not limited by shell size. The mother can move around and gather resources while pregnant. The birth process itself makes the baby stronger. And the close connection between mother and child creates stronger family bonds. Dr. Seth sat down hard, all forearms hitting the table. Impossible. Eggs allow for precise control of development. The parent can regulate temperature, humidity, chemical balance. How does an internal system maintain proper conditions? The mother's body automatically adjusts, Sarah explained. Heart rate increases to pump more blood. Breathing deepens to provide more oxygen. Hormones change to support the baby's growth. It's all automatic. The alien scientists looked at each other with expressions of disbelief and revulsion. Judge Orbital 7's ring spun faster. You're describing biological chaos, the judge said slowly. An uncontrolled system with no external monitoring. How do you prevent developmental errors? We have medical checkups, Sarah said. Doctors monitor both mother and baby throughout pregnancy. Doctors can see inside the mother without opening her? Dr. Sporemind asked. Sarah showed them another ultrasound image. We use sound waves to create pictures of the baby while it's still inside. Dr. Seth leaned forward to look at the image, then quickly leaned back. That thing is moving around inside the parent organism? Babies are very active before birth, Sarah confirmed. They kick, stretch, sometimes even hiccup. Several aliens made distressed sounds. Zixtal developed 3 new cracks in their crystal structure. This conversation is making me ill, Dr. Sporemind announced. I need to return to my laboratory and reconsider everything I know about biology. Wait, Sarah said quickly. Before you go, I have a question for all of you. The aliens paused in their rush to leave. How do your eggs handle genetic diversity? How do you ensure that offspring aren't identical to their parents? Dr. Seth looked puzzled. Genetic material from two parents combines inside the egg before shell formation. This creates variation. And where does this combination happen? In specialized reproductive chambers under carefully controlled conditions. Sarah nodded thoughtfully. So you still need two parents just like humans. The only difference is where the baby develops. Inside an egg or inside the mother. The difference is enormous, Dr. Seth protested. Controlled environment versus biological chaos. Safety versus danger. Logic versus madness. Maybe, Sarah said quietly. Or maybe it's just two different solutions to the same problem. She stood up and gathered her materials. I understand this is difficult to accept, but I'm telling you the truth about my species. Humans give live birth. We always have. It's how we survived and became intelligent. As the alien scientists filed out of the room, Sarah heard them talking in urgent whispers. Words like impossible, disturbing, and biological nightmare came through the universal translators. Sarah sat back down and opened her biology textbook again. She had a feeling tomorrow's meeting was going to be even more challenging than today's. But at least now the aliens knew the truth about human reproduction. Whether they could accept it was another question entirely. 2 weeks later, Sarah found herself standing in the lobby of St. Mary's Hospital in downtown Chicago. Beside her stood the most unusual group of visitors the hospital had ever seen. Dr. Seth wore a specially designed environmental suit that made them look like a metallic lizard in a snow globe. Dr. Sporemind had been fitted with air filters to prevent their spores from contaminating the sterile environment. Clicking had been muffled with sound dampeners after their natural communication nearly shattered windows during their arrival. The Galactic Council had sent their finest scientific minds to Earth for one purpose: to expose humanity's lies about live birth and find the real human eggs. This is your primary medical facility? Judge Orbital 7 asked. Their metal rings hovered around the information desk, scanning everything with beams of blue light. One of them, Sarah replied. We have thousands of hospitals across the planet. Dr. Seth's translator crackled. Thousands? How many reproductive emergencies do you have if you need so many egg care centers? Sarah had tried to explain that hospitals handled more than just births. But the alien seemed convinced that any medical facility must be primarily for reproduction. It was, Dr. Sporemind had insisted, the most critical function of any civilization. Dr. Martinez, Earth's leading reproductive specialist, approached the group. She had volunteered to guide the alien scientists, though Sarah could see the nervousness in her eyes. Meeting aliens was one thing. Convincing them that human biology wasn't impossible was something else entirely. Welcome to Earth, Dr. Martinez said. I understand you want to observe human reproductive processes. We want to find your hidden egg chambers, Dr. Seth corrected firmly. This charade has gone on long enough. Dr. Martinez looked at Sarah, who shrugged helplessly. Right this way, Dr. Martinez said. We have a mother in labor right now if you'd like to observe. The group followed Dr. Martinez down a long hallway lined with rooms. Through open doors, Sarah could see the aliens' heads turning to stare at medical equipment they didn't recognize. What are those white containers? Dr. Sporemind asked, pointing at what Sarah realized were baby cribs. Those hold newborn babies after birth, Dr. Martinez explained. After hatching? You mean, Dr. Seth said confidently. After birth, Dr. Martinez repeated patiently. They stopped outside a delivery room. Through the window, they could see a young woman lying on a bed with her husband holding her hand. Medical staff moved around them with practiced efficiency. The human female appears to be in distress, clicked observed. Is her egg stuck? Dr. Martinez put on gloves and a surgical mask. She's having contractions. The baby is being born naturally. Where is the egg? Judge Orbital 7 demanded. I see no incubation chamber. Watch carefully, Dr. Martinez said, leading them into the room. The medical team barely looked up as the group of aliens entered. Sarah had spent considerable effort convincing the hospital staff that this was a normal diplomatic visit. She had not mentioned that the aliens thought human reproduction was impossible. For the next 20 minutes, the alien scientists watched in growing confusion as the birth progressed. They kept looking around the room for hidden eggshells or incubation equipment. Dr. Seth used all 4 arms to scan the medical instruments, convinced they would find egg-cracking devices. Then the baby's head appeared. Dr. Sporemind made a sound like a balloon deflating and sat down hard on the floor. Several of their eyes closed completely. By the eternal crystal, Zixtal whispered, it's actually emerging from inside the parent. Clicked-Clicked's mandibles started clicking so rapidly that the sound dampeners couldn't keep up. The noise filled the room like a machine gun. Dr. Seth stared in absolute silence as the rest of the baby was born. When the infant took its first breath and began crying, Dr. Seth fainted. All four arms went limp and they collapsed backward onto Judge Orbital 7's floating rings. Impossible, Dr. Sporemind whispered from the floor. Absolutely impossible. But I'm watching it happen. The new mother smiled tiredly as the nurse placed the baby in her arms. She looked over at the group of stunned aliens. Is everything okay? She asked Dr. Martinez. Why do they look so shocked? They're scientists from other planets, Dr. Martinez explained carefully. They've never seen human birth before. Oh, how interesting, the mother said. Do they want to hold her? Every alien in the room took a step backward. Maybe later, Sarah said quickly. Outside in the hallway, Dr. Seth slowly regained consciousness. Judge Orbital 7's rings were spinning in agitated circles. Dr. Sporemind remained sitting on the floor staring at nothing. That actually happened, Dr. Seth said weakly. I saw it with all my eyes. No shell, clicked quietly. No incubation period. No protective barrier. The offspring just emerged. From inside the parent, Dr. Sporemind added, sounding traumatized. Dr. Martinez approached them with a tablet computer. Would you like to see the biological data? Heart rate, oxygen levels, blood pressure throughout the process? Dr. Seth looked at the screen and immediately looked away. The parent's vital signs are chaotic. How did she survive such stress? Human females are designed for this process, Dr. Martinez explained. Their bodies can handle the changes. But the energy expenditure, Dr. Sporemind protested weakly. Growing a brain that complex inside another organism should kill both participants. Dr. Martinez smiled. Actually, pregnant women often report having more energy during certain stages of pregnancy. The body adapts remarkably well. Judge Orbital 7's rings stopped spinning. More energy, while supporting a developing intelligence, that defies every law of biology we know. Sarah had been quiet during the entire observation, but now she spoke up. Dr. Martinez, could you show them the premature baby unit? Excellent idea, Dr. Martinez said. They walked to another section of the hospital, where tiny babies lay in clear plastic containers surrounded by complex machines. These are human infants born early, Dr. Martinez explained, before their development was complete. Dr. Seth studied the tiny babies with fascination and horror. They're so small. How do they survive without shells? We create an artificial environment, Dr. Martinez said. Temperature control, oxygen regulation, nutrition delivery. It's similar to what you might do for an egg. But they're already alive and moving, clicked observed. Hatchlings don't usually become active until much later. Human babies are born active, Dr. Martinez confirmed. They can cry, move their limbs, and begin feeding immediately. Dr. Sporemind finally stood up from where he had been sitting on the floor. I need to contact my research team. Everything we know about reproductive biology may be wrong. Not wrong, Sarah said gently. Just incomplete. You've only studied egg-laying species before. Humans are different. Different doesn't begin to describe this, Judge Orbital 7 said. Their rings were now moving in slow, thoughtful patterns. Your species shouldn't exist. Live birth of intelligent beings should be impossible. But we do exist, Sarah pointed out. And we're intelligent. So maybe your theories need updating. Dr. Seth looked back toward the delivery room where they had witnessed the birth. In 300 years of scientific study, I have never seen anything like that. It was horrifying and fascinating at the same time. Would you like to meet more human families? Dr. Martinez offered. We have new mothers throughout the hospital. Every alien shook their head vigorously. I think we've seen enough for one day, Dr. Sporemind said. I need time to process this information. As the group walked back toward the hospital exit, Sarah noticed that the aliens kept looking back over their shoulders, as if they expected to wake up and find this had all been a strange dream. Dr. Chen, Judge Orbital 7 said quietly, how many other impossible things about your species haven't you told us yet? Sarah thought about that question. Well, we also have multiple organ systems that can regenerate. We can survive in environments that would kill most species, and we form emotional bonds with completely different life forms as pets. The alien stopped walking. Perhaps, Dr. Seth said weakly, we should schedule these revelations over several months instead of all at once. Sarah smiled. That's probably a good idea. News of humanity's impossible biology spread across the galaxy faster than a solar flare. Within days, every major news network in known space was running. Headlines about the live birth species and the biological impossibility of Earth. Sarah watched the coverage from her temporary quarters on the Galactic Council station. The reactions were more extreme than she had expected. On the crystal homeworld of Zixtal species, religious leaders declared that humans were either divine messengers or demons sent to test their faith. The fact that humans could create life without proper, crystalline egg structures challenged their most fundamental beliefs about the nature of existence. The hive minds were calling emergency collective consciousness sessions to debate whether humans represented the next step in evolution or a dangerous mutation that threatened galactic stability. 3 different hive clusters had split into factions over the question. Most disturbing of all, the Galactic Science Academy had suspended all research into reproductive biology pending a complete review of established theories. Dr. Sporemind had submitted a formal request to discard and rebuild 3 centuries of scientific knowledge. Sarah's door chimed, and she opened it to find Dr. Seth standing in the hallway. The alien scientist looked exhausted. Their usually bright green scales had faded to a dull olive color, and all 4 arms hung limply at their sides. Dr. Chen, they said tiredly. May I come in? Sarah stepped aside. Of course. How are you holding up? Dr. Seth collapsed into a chair designed for humanoid species. I haven't slept in 4 days. Every time I close my eyes, I see that human infant emerging from its parent. My entire understanding of biology has been shattered. I'm sorry this has been so difficult for you, Sarah said sincerely. Don't apologize. Dr. Seth waved one arm weakly. You didn't choose your biology. My species chose our ignorance. Sarah sat down across from them. What do you mean? Dr. Seth was quiet for a long moment. I've been studying the data from your hospital visit. Running calculations, analyzing energy requirements, reviewing genetic structures. Do you know what I discovered? What? Live birth isn't just possible for intelligent species. In many ways, it's superior to egg reproduction. Sarah blinked in surprise. Superior how? Dr. Seth pulled out their electronic device and projected a hologram into the air. It showed complex diagrams of brain development and energy flow. Brain growth, Dr. Seth explained. In egg reproduction, brain size is limited by shell capacity. We work around this by extending development time. But there are still constraints. Your species bypasses this completely. The hologram shifted to show comparative development charts. A human infant brain continues growing throughout gestation without size restrictions. By birth, human babies have larger, more complex neural structures than any other known species achieves until months after hatching. Sarah studied the charts. I never thought about it that way. There's more, Dr. Seth continued. Parental bonding. Egg layers form emotional connections after hatching, when the infant is already independent. But humans bond during pregnancy. The mother's emotional state directly affects the developing child through chemical signals. That doesn't always seem like an advantage, Sarah said with a small smile. Stressed mothers can have difficult pregnancies, but happy, healthy mothers produce stronger, more resilient offspring, Dr. Seth countered. The emotional connection creates better survival outcomes. Your species has weaponized love as a reproductive strategy. Sarah had never heard pregnancy described quite that way, but she supposed it made sense from an alien perspective. Dr. Seth made the hologram show energy consumption charts, and the efficiency is remarkable. What we thought was biological chaos is actually elegant optimization. The mother's body automatically adjusts resource allocation based on the infant's needs. No external monitoring required. No risk of equipment failure. The system is self-regulating. You sound like you admire it now, Sarah observed. I do, Dr. Seth admitted. It's terrifying and beautiful at the same time. But that creates a problem. What kind of problem? Dr. Seth dismissed the hologram and leaned forward. If live birth is superior to egg reproduction, why didn't any other intelligent species evolve this way? The statistical probability of humans being the only live birth species in the galaxy is essentially zero. Sarah had been wondering about this herself. Maybe the evolutionary pressures were different on Earth? I've been thinking about that too, Dr. Seth said. Your planet has more environmental variation than most worlds. Different climates, seasonal changes, geological activity. Maybe live birth evolved as an adaptation to unpredictable conditions. How so? Egg layers need stable environments for proper incubation. Temperature changes, humidity fluctuations, or chemical variations can kill developing offspring, but live birth mothers can move to new locations, adapt to changing conditions, and protect their young through mobility. Sarah nodded. Human mothers often traveled while pregnant even in ancient times. Exactly, Dr. Seth said excitedly, some color returning to their scales. Your species evolved reproduction as a survival tool rather than a limitation. It's brilliant! Their excitement faded as quickly as it had appeared. Which brings me to the real problem. The Galactic Council doesn't know what to do with you. What do you mean? Dr. Seth sighed, a sound like steam escaping from a valve. 3 different factions have formed since your revelation. One group wants to study humans indefinitely as biological curiosities. Another faction believes humans are too alien to safely integrate with normal species. And the third group thinks humans represent such an evolutionary advantage that we should try to copy your reproductive system. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. Copy how? Genetic modification. Biological reconstruction. Some species are already experimenting with artificial live birth systems for their own reproduction. That sounds dangerous, Sarah said. It is dangerous. Dr. Sporemind told me yesterday that 2 research teams have already suffered casualties trying to adapt their biology for internal gestation. Apparently, you can't just remove the egg from the process without completely redesigning the reproductive system. Sarah thought about the implications. So our biology is causing problems across the galaxy. Your biology is forcing the galaxy to confront the fact that we might not be as advanced as we thought, Dr. Seth corrected. For thousands of years, we believed that intelligence could only develop one way. You've proven us wrong. Dr. Seth stood up and walked to the window looking out at the stars. Do you know what frightens the Council most about humans? Our military potential? Sarah guessed. No, your adaptability. Every other species found one environment that worked and stayed there. You spread across your entire planet, adapting to every possible condition. Frozen poles, burning deserts, deep oceans, high mountains. You even built settlements in space. Most species do that eventually, Sarah said. Most species do that with technology, Dr. Seth corrected. You did it with biology first. Your bodies can adapt to different gravity, different air pressure, different climates. Combined with a live birth reproduction that doesn't require specific environmental conditions, humans could potentially colonize anywhere. Sarah began to understand the Council's concern. You think we're too successful? I think you're successful in ways we never considered possible, and that scares species who have been successful in traditional ways for millions of years. Dr. Seth turned back toward her. The vote on human membership is in 3 days. Right now it could go either way. What can I do to help? Sarah asked. Dr. Seth was quiet for a moment. Tell them what you told me. Explain that being different doesn't mean being dangerous. Show them that diversity makes the galaxy stronger, not weaker. Will they listen? I don't know, Dr. Seth admitted. But I'll be arguing in your favor. Live birth reproduction isn't a threat to the galaxy. It's a gift. The question is whether the Council is wise enough to accept it. As Dr. Seth left, Sarah looked out at the stars and wondered if humanity's greatest strength might also be their greatest obstacle to joining the galactic community. The Council chamber had never been so crowded. Representatives from over 300 species filled every available space, floating in energy bubbles, hanging from the ceiling supports, or extending themselves through dimensional portals. The vote on human membership had become the most significant decision in galactic history. Sarah sat at the center of it all, feeling very small despite the importance of the moment. To her left sat Dr. Seth, whose scales had regained their bright green color. To her right was Clicked, who had become surprisingly supportive after their initial shock. Judge Orbital 7 hovered above the main platform, their metal rings spinning slowly as they called for order. The Council will now hear final arguments regarding human integration into the galactic community. The first speaker was a massive creature Sarah had never seen before. They looked like a walking mountain with glowing crystals for eyes. Their voice shook the entire chamber. The mountain speakers reject human membership, they announced. These live birth beings represent chaos incarnate. Their reproduction is uncontrolled, unpredictable, and fundamentally dangerous. We have maintained galactic stability for 10,000 years through proper biological order. Humans threaten that order. Murmurs of agreement rippled through sections of the chamber. Sarah felt her heart sink. The next speaker was more familiar, Dr. Sporemind, who had recovered from their initial trauma and become fascinated with human biology. The fungal collective supports human membership, they declared, their multiple eyes blinking in sequence. Scientific advancement requires new perspectives. Humans have shown us that our understanding of life itself was incomplete. They offer knowledge that could revolutionize reproduction across the galaxy. This drew different murmurs, some excited, others worried. A third speaker emerged from what looked like empty space, one of the energy beings whose name Sarah couldn't pronounce. The void dancers remain neutral, they said in a voice like wind through cosmic dust. We have observed that diversity strengthens reality. But we also observe that change brings unpredictable consequences. We abstain from this decision. The debate continued for hours. Sarah listened to species after species argue about human biology, human potential, and human risks. Some saw opportunity. Others saw threat. Many seemed genuinely confused about what humans actually represented. Finally, Judge Orbital 7 called for the human representative to speak. Sarah stood up, her legs shaky from sitting so long. She looked around the vast chamber at hundreds of different forms of intelligent life. Some had eyes like her. Others sensed the world through methods she couldn't imagine. But they were all here, all part of the same galactic community that humans wanted to join. Honored representatives, she began. I know my species has caused confusion and concern. Our biology is different from yours, and different can seem dangerous. She paused, gathering her thoughts. But different doesn't have to mean incompatible. Over the past weeks, I've learned about your species. You've evolved in ways humans never could. You've solved problems we never imagined. You've created technologies and societies that amaze us. Sarah gestured toward Dr. Seth. Dr. Seth taught me that egg reproduction allows for precise control of development. Judge Orbital 7 showed me how energy-based consciousness can exist without physical. Former Dr. Sporemind explained how collective intelligence can share knowledge instantly. The chamber was completely quiet now, all attention focused on her words. These are abilities humans will never have, Sarah continued, but that doesn't make them less valuable. It makes them more valuable, because they're different from what we can do. She took a breath and delivered the argument she had been preparing for days. The galaxy has thrived for thousands of years on diversity. You have energy beings and crystal creatures. You have hive minds and individual consciousnesses. You have species that live underwater and others that exist in deep space. What you haven't had is a species with live birth reproduction. Sarah looked directly at the mountain speaker who had opposed human membership. You're right that humans represent change. Our biology does work differently than yours. But look what that difference has already accomplished. She pulled out her tablet and projected images into the air above the chamber. In 2 weeks, Dr. Seth has made more progress understanding reproductive biology than in the previous century. Dr. Sporemind has developed new theories about brain development that could help every species. 3 different research teams have discovered ways to improve their own egg incubation processes by studying how human mothers provide nutrients. The images showed research data, scientific breakthroughs, and collaborative projects between human and alien scientists. We're not asking you to change your reproduction methods, Sarah said clearly. We're offering to share what we've learned from ours. Just like we want to learn from all of you. Sarah noticed movement in one section of the chamber. Clicked was standing up, their mandibles clicking in a pattern she had learned meant determination. The Hive Alliance wishes to speak, Clicked announced. Judge Orbital 7's rings paused in their rotation. The floor recognizes the Hive Alliance. Clicked's voice carried clearly through the chamber. For 3 weeks we have debated whether humans are too different to join us. This debate misses the essential point. They gestured toward Sarah with one of their forearms. Humans are not too different. We are too similar. Confused murmurs filled the chamber. Every species in this council evolved egg reproduction independently. Click continued. We assumed this proved it was the only way. But statistical analysis shows this is impossible. The odds of every intelligent species developing identical reproductive strategies are zero. Dr. Sporemind's eyes began blinking rapidly. They're right. I should have realized this earlier. Clicked louder, commanding attention. We converged on similar solutions because we shared similar environments. But the galaxy is vast. Many worlds must have conditions like Earth. If humans evolved live birth, others probably did too. Sarah felt excitement building in her chest. She had never considered this possibility. Where are those other species? Clicked, asked the chamber. Why haven't we found them? Perhaps because we built a galactic community that only accepted species like ourselves. Perhaps we excluded entire categories of intelligent life without realizing it. The chamber erupted in discussion. Species that had been silent throughout the debate suddenly began talking urgently among themselves. Judge Orbital 7 spun their rings for attention. Are you suggesting our membership criteria have been discriminatory? I'm suggesting our membership criteria were based on incomplete understanding, Clicked replied. Humans have shown us what we were missing. They represent not just one different species, but potentially thousands of species we never found, because we weren't looking for them. Dr. Seth stood up, adding their voice to the argument. The Reptilian Confederation supports this analysis. If live birth reproduction offers evolutionary advantages we never recognized, we may have missed entire civilizations. Furthermore, Dr. Seth continued, humans have demonstrated that their different biology enables different capabilities. Their adaptability, their bonding systems, their mobility, these could be valuable assets for galactic exploration and colonization. Sarah watched as the mood in the chamber shifted. Fear was being replaced by curiosity. Concern was becoming excitement. The mountain speaker rumbled back to life. Even if this analysis is correct, integrating such radically different biology carries risks. All progress carries risks. Clicked back. But the risk of stagnation is greater than the risk of growth. Judge Orbital 7 called for the formal vote. All representatives will now register their decision on human membership in the Galactic Council. Sarah held her breath as voting indicators lit up around the chamber. Green lights for approval, red lights for rejection, white lights for abstention. The count seemed to take forever. Green lights clustered around Dr. Seth in click sections. Red lights dominated the areas where more traditional species sat. White lights scattered throughout, representing species still uncertain about the decision. Finally, Judge Orbital 7 announced the results. The vote is 847 in favor, 623 opposed, 312 abstentions. The motion passes. Humanity is granted provisional membership in the Galactic Council, subject to establishment of joint research protocols and cultural exchange programs. The chamber exploded in noise as hundreds of species reacted to the decision. Sarah felt tears of relief running down her face. But Judge Orbital 7 wasn't finished. Furthermore, the Council establishes a new directive: active search for and outreach to biological variants we may have previously overlooked. Humanity will serve as liaison for this program. Dr. Seth approached Sarah as the crowd began to disperse. Congratulations, Ambassador Chen. You didn't just win membership for humanity. You changed how the galaxy thinks about diversity itself. Sarah shook their hand, an Earth custom Dr. Seth had learned during their time together. We couldn't have done it without allies like you and Clicked. Speaking of which, Dr. Seth said, I've received approval to establish the galaxy's first joint reproductive biology research center. Would Earth be interested in hosting it? Sarah smiled.